Hi, I'm Scott Morris, and welcome to Classical Guitar Complete. This is the video companion to my book, Classical Guitar Complete from Basics to Bach. And today I'm at a studio in Hollywood, California. And today we're also going to be talking about bringing out the melody in your pieces. And the way I've been doing this is I take a piece in my book that is appropriate for the topic we're discussing. In this case, it's the Moderato Opus 31 by Fernando. It's on page 94 of the book. A couple things I just want to talk about before I actually play the piece is related to just knowing what the different voices are. So when you talk about bringing out the melody, you obviously have to make sure you know what the melody is in the piece. And with this little piece here, it's a pretty simple little piece here. Just play the first measure or so. More than the first measure, but make sure you know where that melody is and don't confuse that with, say the bass line or something like that. So as soon as you've identified the most important voice, you want to bring that out. After I play the piece, we'll discuss some technical ways you can approach bringing out the melody a bit better, and we'll talk about that then. Okay, so let's just talk about a few ways you can start to bring out the important lines. And as I mentioned earlier, you have to make sure you've identified the proper line to bring out. Sometimes students or amateurs will, or even professionals will say, I'm going to bring that line out, and maybe that's musically not the line that makes the most sense to bring out. The most common thing with guitar players is the heavy thumb and the bass strings. It's just louder. Those bass strings are really loud on most people's guitars, and the treble strings just generally a little bit harder to make those sound. Unfortunately, a lot of music is written so that those top notes actually have to come out and the bass has to be a little bit quieter, and this is one of those pieces here. So you've got to fight that temptation to really overplay those basses there and bring out the top. Okay, well here's the best way I can think of to help you bring out those notes. And that's by first just discussing the right hand and the way this works. I think one of the things that most guitar players don't think enough about is how they actually move the string, how they pluck the string. And I think this comes from maybe playing with plectrum or something like that, where you kind of hit the strings in order to make them sound. But when we're plucking the strings with our fingers, you're not really hitting the strings. As a matter of fact, slapping at the string is a very bad thing to do. What you want to do instead is just pull the string, displace the string, and then let it go. So if you just push the string and then let it go, so I'm not actually hitting the string when I play. Now, the best analogy I can give you for this would be, say, maybe a bow and arrow. If you think about shooting an arrow really far, what do? Well, you pull back on the string really far, but you control that string, and then you just let it go, and the arrow will go, a really long way. If you want to just shoot it a short distance, just pull it back a little bit, then let it go, and it'll just go a couple of feet or whatever it might be. So to make the arrow go further, you don't hit the string really hard, and I think that's what a lot of guitar players do. They think, I've got to bring that line out, so I'm going to hit the string really hard. Well, that's not the way to do it at all. So here's what I recommend you do. Go through it very slowly, and then bring out, and you can do this completely out of rhythm, the important note. So here I'm bringing out that top voice, that melody. And I'm doing a couple of things to make that work. One, I'm backing off a little bit with my thumb. If you're using nails, like I am, one of the things you can do is you can avoid a lot of the nails. You can play a little bit more off the fleshy part of the thumb. If you're not using nails, then it's not such an issue, but just back off so you're not plucking quite as hard with the thumb. That's number one. But the most important thing is to displace the string really far with the fingers here. And one little exercise that I really like is something that I got from one of my teachers a long time ago, William Canongeiser, where you just play block chords like that, and then you put your fingers down, and then you press one string a little bit harder than the others. Like if I want to bring out the first string, then you can bring out that first string. Or if I want to bring out the middle string, something like that. So go through your pieces really slowly and displace those strings more when you want the volume to come out more. Okay, well, hopefully you found this helpful. It takes a lot of technical work in order to bring out the lines that you want to bring out. It also takes some musical experience to know which lines to bring out and how much to bring out. And then, of course, you have all of the nuances of phrasing, little crescendos and decrescendos and things like that. But with a little bit of practice and patience, it will become much easier. Well, thank you for your attention, and I'll see you next time.